Author's note: this is the first entry in an r/no-sleep collaboration. The second entry can be read here. I didn't ride the bus. My mom went to work at 6 in the morning, and as a result, I was often dropped off in front of my high school at 5:30 in the morning. I was always the first one to homeroom, but Amanda was always the second person to show up with Sky close behind her. It was the last day of our freshman year when I had worked up the nerve to ask Sky to join me after school at the youth center. We had been dating ever since. It was a nice thing. I was dating one of the prettiest girls in the school, and each morning I'd have the better part of an hour to spend with her until the rest of the class showed up. The only real mar on this experience was that Amanda seemed hell-bent on interjecting herself into every conversation. It was as if no one was allowed to have Sky's undivided attention. We were halfway through our sophomore year when I realized I was starting to hate Amanda. Don't ask me why, but I got in my head that it would be a good idea to play a prank on her. It was a simple thing. I propped a 5-gallon bucket filled with water on top of the door to the classroom and left the door slightly ajar. The bucket leaned against the top of the door frame, and I kept the door in place with a chair. Amanda would come bursting through as she always did, and the water would drench her. I don't imagine Sky would have been incredibly happy with me, but it would have at the very least conveyed the point to Amanda that I didn't really like her all that much. I made sure everything was in place, and to my horror, Sky burst through the door. In nearly 4 months of waiting for them to enter, she had never come in first. The whole event played out in slow motion as she pushed on the door and the bucket came down rocking first. I watched as the hard plastic edge backed by 40 pounds of water slammed down on the front of her head and cut deep into her forehead. The bucket bounced off her face and poured out onto the ground as Amanda ran in right behind Sky, just in time to get her feet wet as her best friend fell unconscious and bleeding at her feet. I stood there dumbfounded as Amanda dropped her books and started shouting for someone to call an ambulance. I walked over and knelt down in the water, trying to hold Sky's hand. Amanda batted my hand away and said, "What the fuck were you thinking, Kevin?" Amanda interrupted. "You thought what, Kevin? Speak up." I gathered myself and said, "I thought you were going to be the one coming through the door." I reached down to grab Sky's hand, and Amanda stood up and kicked me, saying, "Get the fuck away from her, you fucking psycho." She then poked her head into the hall and screamed, "Somebody help US." I didn't make it to my first class that morning. I didn't even get to see my girlfriend loaded onto an ambulance. The school's security officer rushed in and saw Sky bleeding on the floor as a frantic Amanda pointed at me and shouted, "He did it." The security officer grabbed my arm and wrenched it behind my back before leading me out of the room against my will. When the ambulance and police arrived, I was cuffed and placed in police custody. The school suspended me until the end of the year, and the local juvenile courts gave me a 2-year suspended sentence for reckless endangerment with a year of probation. On top of this, I did 30 days in juvenile hall during the summer. When it was all said and done, one simple prank had all but ruined my life. But my story doesn't end there. If anything, that was the first in a long series of unfortunate events that didn't really make much sense until very recently. I returned to school the following year as a junior. The school had seen fit to make sure I was in a different homeroom than Amanda and Sky. Still, I paid a freshman kid $5 to pass a note to Sky that read, "I'm so incredibly sorry. I would have reached out before now, but my parents' lawyer told me not to contact you or Amanda. I just wanted to say that I am so very sorry that I messed up and hurt you. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I just want you to know that I'm sorry." I was sitting by myself at lunch when Amanda walked up to my table and threw the note at my tray saying, "Sky doesn't want to talk to you. Leave her alone, creep." I shot back, "She's more than capable of telling me that herself. Why don't you fuck off, Amanda?" She smiled and said, "Okay, I will. It would be a shame if you were to violate your probation, though." At the time, I had no idea what she meant. In retrospect, I wish I had stood up right then and beat her to death right there on the spot. We were a couple of months into the school year when it came time for the fall formal. I showed up alone and couldn't help but stare as Sky and Amanda showed up in matching blue dresses. Sky had been wearing her hair down over her left eye ever since I had mistakenly given her a rather disfiguring scar from her brow to her hairline. Even with the scar, she looked absolutely stunning. What more, they both walked up to me. Amanda looked down at the floor and said, "I talked to Sky, and well, I think she should say it herself." Sky looked in my eyes and said, "I don't think we could ever really date again, but would you mind dancing with me tonight?" We danced to a few songs as Amanda wandered off on her own. It was a magical night. We danced for the better part of 30 minutes before we moved over to a table and started talking. Sky leaned over and said, "I forgot how much I enjoyed spending time with you. It was a dream, and I was so worried I was going to wake up." I replied, "I'm just surprised this is all happening." Amanda came over with drinks and handed one to each of us before pulling up a chair. I looked over and said, "You're being uncharacteristically nice, Amanda. Is this poison?" She laughed and said, "Oh, Kevin, if I were going to kill you, I'd use a knife." It didn't really answer my question, but then again, I was 16, and I wasn't exactly thinking anything could go wrong in that moment. I had Sky back, if only for a night. Amanda was being civil like the old days. The whole thing almost seemed like a happy ending of sorts. That's the problem with happy endings, though. That's just where the story ends. If I ended the story here, it would be a great place to fade to black and show some still image with a success story. Instead, I started feeling incredibly woozy and my body started tingling all over. No sooner than I could process what was going on, Amanda and Sky were walking away from the table. Sky looked back if only for a moment, and I saw a look in her eyes that I didn't really understand at the time. It was almost as if she pitied me. I stumbled hazily toward them only to be met by the school security officer. Someone had called the school and told them I was selling drugs out of my locker at the fall formal. It didn't help that I was somehow high as a kite. They popped open my locker and found a few grams of ketamine. Later testing would show that it had been added to the punch bowl as well. Despite my pleas that I was being set up and that Amanda had drugged me, no one was hearing it. My probation was revoked and new charges were levied. I would be 19 before I saw freedom again. For almost 3 years, I sat in a cell reading books and working out as I tried to get through the time itself. Some nights I'd lay there daydreaming about a life with Sky until I went into dreams of freedom. Eventually, I stopped caring about what might have been and started focusing on what actually happened. It occurred to me that Sky had to have been on it. I told the story to my cellmate and he was like, "Dude, it sounds like the bitch was in on it." I don't know why that had never occurred to me before that night laying in my bunk, but from that point on I was able to clearly piece it together in my head. Amanda and Sky had shown up to that dance with the intent of getting me arrested. While Sky kept me distracted, Amanda had to have gotten into my locker somehow and planted the drugs. Then, Sky led me over to the table and Amanda fetched us some drinks. That's why neither her nor Sky was drugged. She dumped the extra in the punch bowl so it would look like I was pulling another prank. It had to have happened that way. Nothing else made sense. I spent my last year on the inside plotting and planning to kill Amanda, but that all faded away when I got out. Amanda and Sky had gone off to college and I had to move in with my grandmother. I wasn't on probation anymore and my juvenile record had been sealed, but for some reason every place I tried to apply for seemed to pick up on the fact that I had done time. No one was hiring me and no one from high school had any desire to hang out with me. I spent most of my time alone in the tool shed behind my grandmother's house because it was the only rainproof structure on her property that was close enough to an open Wi-Fi network that I could actually get online. This was the winter of 2007. I got onto this new thing called Facebook. I made a profile under the name Jim Stone and added most of my old friends from high school to get an idea of what happened while I was away, as well as to have an excuse to check up on Sky and Amanda. I don't think I was actually planning on hurting anyone at that point, but I was still curious and obsessed. I had stopped taking my medication the day I left the prison, and I had picked up a bit of a drinking habit. It wasn't long until I figured out that Sky and Amanda were attending college at the local state university. I walked past there a few times. It was your typical used bookstore on the court square. Rows of books in the back, a few coffee tables, and a few sofas. Both girls sat at a register toward the front, and neither saw me as I walked past on several occasions. I learned their schedules. Sky would walk out with the deposit bag each night, and Amanda would lock up and leave roughly 15 or 20 minutes later. I brought a voice recorder with me and set it up so I could catch Sky by herself. I guess I figured if I could get her to admit that she and Amanda had set me up that I could get some sort of vindication or something. I honestly don't know what I was thinking. Sky walked past the alley where I had posted up, and I jumped out behind her saying, "Did you really think you could get away with it?" She turned around and shrieked in terror. I stepped forward and said, "Admit it." Sky took a step back and said, "I'm sorry, Kevin. Amanda said it was the only way to make sure you'd leave me alone forever. I never even wanted to talk to you again." I shot back, "You could have just told me that." She was crying at this point and said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "What are you sorry for?" as I leaned in closer. She all but whispered, "I'm sorry." I was shouting at that point and said, "Sorry doesn't give me a job or money, Sky. No one wants to hire the girlfriend abusing drug dealer." She pushed the deposit bag forward and said, "Just take it." I was holding the deposit bag as I felt a sharp pain between my legs, followed by an intense burning in my eyes. Amanda had ran up from behind and kicked me square in the taint. As I went down, she emptied a can of pepper spray into my eyes. In all the commotion, she pulled Sky away from me. I rolled around on the ground for several minutes as I tried to push through the pain in my eyes and stand up. I had just made it over to the window of the bookstore when I could make out the blue and red flashing lights through searing pain that was my eyes. I caught another charge for assault and attempted robbery. As an adult, I was sentenced to 4 years with the possibility of parole in 2. I ended up serving 3 before being sent home because of overcrowding. One of the conditions of my release was that I go nowhere near Sky. Again, no sooner than I was outside the prison, I stopped taking my medication like the idiot that I am. I started to fixate again. I logged back into my old Jim Stone Facebook account, and I was still friends with half the guys from high school. I went ahead and sent a friend request to Sky. It was 2011 and everyone was playing games on Facebook. I sent random game requests to Sky, and after a while I started talking to her. It was just casual conversation at first. She'd complain about her roommate being a control freak and how she wished she could just get away. I'd talk about work and how I couldn't stand the customers that came into the gas station at night. This continued for about a month before she sent me a message that read, "Kevin, I think we should meet up." I replied, "How long have you known?" She replied, "For a while now, XD." I balked at meeting up at first, but over the course of the next few weeks we built up a new rapport. She apologized for helping Amanda. I apologized for being so inconsiderate. I dunno. From there, it almost felt like we were reconnecting and rekindling something that resembled a relationship. One day, she suggested we meet up at the park. I jumped at the opportunity. I put on my best casual outfit and layered on the cologne. I was sitting in a bench at the city park when I saw Sky and Amanda walking around the bend. Sky looked at me in horror as Amanda smiled from ear to ear. I ran up and said, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why can't you just leave me the fuck alone?" I shouted this at Sky as Amanda's smile turned to a look of contempt. She shouted, "Go away, Kevin. Stop creeping on my best friend already. Somebody help." Before I could respond, I was feeling a familiar searing pain in my eyes, followed by what felt like a crowd of people kicking me while I was down. The judge didn't give 2 squirts of piss that I had a chat log showing a nearly 6-month conversation with Sky on Facebook that invited me to the park. I was on probation and there was a no contact order. More to the point, the prosecutor had a sworn statement from Sky and Amanda that neither one of them used social media. My lawyer subpoenaed their ISP and Facebook for information, but neither seemed content with handing over the information. In the end, I was charged with a parole violation and served out the rest of my sentence. I had a long time to think about my life and my situation during that last year of incarceration. Up until that point, I had neglected treatment and medication while I was free. I saw it as more of an inconvenience than anything else. Antipsychotic medication has a tendency to leave me feeling kinda groggy at times, but the results were hard to argue with. When I was medicated, I was attentive and not really prone to stupid behavior. While medicated, I couldn't wrap my mind around the decisions I had made. I guess it just kinda clicked with me that in order to be a healthier person, I had to stay with treatment and medication when I got out. I signed up for an online college while I was in prison and ended up transferring to their main campus when I was released. Having served out my time, I was free of probation and parole for what was probably the first time in my adult life. The college had great support services, and I even had a tutor to help me with some of my classes. In those next few years, I ended up finishing an associate's degree in electrical engineering and even snagged a decent job working for that very same college in their maintenance department. I had my life back on track. I lived in a tiny house I had built myself with a girlfriend I had met at the college. We had a half an acre of land just on the edge of town and the makings of a decent life. Sure, I was a 3-time convicted felon with a psychotic disorder and a messed up past, but I had overcome that and moved on, or so I thought. I was walking through campus checking on the relay boxes when I noticed Amanda. I walked past her like she didn't exist. In fact, I started seeing her in more and more places, but each time I made it a point to avoid her. It was only when I went back to my truck and noticed she was sitting in her car parked next to me that I knocked on her window and said, "Are you following me?" She started her car and drove off. Just to be sure, I scheduled an appointment with my psychiatrist and had a full mental health checkup. I wanted to make sure that my medication hadn't suddenly stopped working. My psychiatrist told me to contact the police if I really believed Amanda was following me, so that's what I did. I went down to the police station and filed a harassment complaint and listed Amanda as the individual I wanted to leave me alone. They took my statement, but told me that there wasn't much I could do unless she made any other action. I told Charlotte, my girlfriend, about the whole ordeal. It was at that point that she informed me she had just accepted a friend request on Facebook from Amanda. I called the police again and gave them that information as well. For the next 2 weeks, I started seeing Amanda in more and more places. I have to admit I was scared there for a while. I was worried that I was either hallucinating or even worse that I was misinterpreting everything and that I was just fixating again. Ultimately, I stopped seeing Amanda as much, and that was when everything flipped on its ear. Charlotte met me at the door after work with a letter from Sky. I didn't even open it. I went back to the dining room table and opened up my laptop to play some Fallout before winding down for the night. That letter sat on my counter for a week before I finally gave into curiosity and opened it. I don't even know what to say to you. When I found out the extent Amanda went to punish you, I couldn't even recognize her anymore. I'm not innocent in all of this, but you have probably figured that out by now. Amanda convinced me that if I distracted you at the dance, you'd leave me alone forever. I mean, at the time she had me convinced you were stalking me and that she was intercepting letter after letter you were sending me, but that proved to be a lie. Like most things with Amanda, everything she did was some scheme or plan to make herself seem like my knight in shining armor. I've been in therapy for the better part of a year now, and one of the things I've had to make peace with is my part in what Amanda and I did to you. You aren't innocent either. You had drunkenly accosted us at one point. Though I think the absolute worst is when Amanda catfished you and brought me to the park just so she could reinforce her narrative that you were a crazy stalker. I don't think I can ever forgive myself for going along with what she did. At the same time, I still resent the scar on my face. If you hadn't put me in that situation, I don't think I would have ever felt like I needed someone like her. But I'm getting away from the point here. The thing is, I'm sorry, and if you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I think I might feel a little better. Sky? I showed the letter to Charlotte and asked her if she had any opinion on the subject. She responded, "There's a phone number on the back of the letter." I think you should tell her you're sorry too, and leave it at that. I nodded and pulled out my phone and dialed the number. It rang twice, and then a voice on the other end of the line said, "Hello. Who's this?" The voice shouted, "Sky? It's for you." A few seconds later, Sky answered, "Sky speaking. Who's this?" She replied, "Kevin, how did you get my phone number?" I was on speakerphone and Charlotte ripped the phone out of my hand and said, "Because that crazy bitch Amanda sent my fiancé a letter from you with your phone number on the back of it. You two need to leave my man alone, or I'll fucking cut you bitches." I was taken aback and a little impressed with Charlotte. Sky started sniffling and crying on the other end of the line and said, "That fucking bitch. I didn't send any letter and I don't talk to Amanda anymore." What followed was a 20-minute conversation between Charlotte and Sky on speakerphone as I sat in the background and listened to the story from Sky's point of view. Apparently, Amanda had spent the better part of 10 years telling Sky I was an obsessive stalker and luring me to various encounters so she could prove herself a valued friend. In the end, Amanda made a pass at Sky, and when Sky rejected her, Amanda basically admitted to everything she had written as Sky in the letter and declared that Sky would never find another person willing to go to those lengths for her. But then Sky said something that changed everything in my mind. It was toward the end of her conversation with Charlotte when she said, "The worst part is that day the bucket hit me. Amanda told me to run in first and jump in your lap. The bitch knew about the bucket and wanted me to get soaked. Me getting injured was just icing on the cake." It was in that moment that I realized my entire life of hardship and bullshit was in part because some crazy chick had a crush on my girlfriend and decided to destroy me as a result. Medication or not, I couldn't process that kind of stress. I stood up and walked outside as Charlotte finished her conversation with Sky. They would continue to talk and become friends over the course of the next few weeks as I made it a point to see my therapist twice a week there for a while to try and work out the mountain of issues that welled up inside of me because of that revelation. Sky and Charlotte became fast friends. It wasn't long before Sky was coming over to sit with Charlotte or that they would go out together. Sky had started dating a guy named James, and we hit it off instantly. Before long, it was barbecues and beer with football on Sundays. The women folk would do their own thing, and I had something I'd never bothered to look for until that point, a friend. James was in the National Guard, and during one of his weekends away, Charlotte invited Sky to stay with us. All was going well until one night, I woke up to a crashing sound in the living room. I got out of bed to see Amanda holding Sky with a knife to her throat. Charlotte filed out of bed behind me and said, "I take it this is Amanda?" Amanda shouted, "You think you get to have a happy ending? You think you get to have the girl and a life? You're going back to prison, Kevin. I'm going to kill everyone here and make it look like you did it. It's not the first time I've set you up." I was going to respond, but Charlotte spoke up saying, "Bitch, have you ever heard the line, maybe she's not that into you? You aren't killing me, and you damn sure aren't killing Sky." Amanda pulled a gun with her free hand and shot Charlotte in the forehead. Brain matter and viscera sprayed out from the back of her head and splashed me. Sky struggled against the knife, and Amanda stabbed her in the throat before letting her fall to the ground. Amanda then smiled and walked forward before reaching out and handed the gun toward me grip first. The sound of the gunshot had alerted the neighbors, and I could hear sirens in the distance. Amanda picked up on this and said, "Take the gun, asshole. Be the hero." Sky coughed up blood as Amanda kept shouting for me to take the gun. I took the opportunity to punch Amanda square in the jaw before turning to run out the back door. No sooner than I had cleared the doorway, I heard another gunshot and felt the splintered would hit me in the back of the neck. I made it out into the front yard before Amanda shouted, "Stop," and fired another shot. The police pulled into my driveway and jumped out of their cars, guns drawn. Amanda shouted, "This asshole just stabbed my girlfriend and shot his fiancée in the head. He has a gun." I put my hands over my head and knelt down as I shouted, "This crazy bitch just killed my fiancée and her best friend. I'm unarmed." Amanda put down her gun at their request, and the both of us were cuffed and taken down to the station as Sky was loaded into an ambulance. I sat down at the station for the better part of 4 hours before an officer came in to get my statement. After it was all said and done, I was released and told to go home. As I walked out of the interrogation room, I couldn't help but see Amanda sitting in the adjacent room smiling from ear to ear as she stared at me. I don't know what to expect from here on out, but at least that crazy bitch is going to be in prison for the next 20 years. As for me, I have to bury my fiancée.